Hello there, folks. Chuck Trella here from Rise Up and Carve. I'm here at Spoon Camp, New Jersey. We're going to do a quick little demo with Roy Rocky. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Roy Rocky. Rockewood on Instagram. And I picked up this spoon of Roy's at the last Spoon Camp in October. And it's a beautiful little spoon, absolutely fantastic eater. Love the shape. There's a lot of nuance to this. I'll post some photos on Instagram of better pictures of it. But I asked Roy if he'd be willing to do a quick demo for us. This is going to be our RUAC spoon template, the next one for June 2024. I forget the number. I think it's going to be, I don't know, 67, 68. I forget what number we're at. Anyway, so that's what this is going to be about, and we'll be right back. Here's Roy. He's doing some chopping. I'll switch the camera around, and we'll follow as Roy carves this spoon. All right, here we go. So, hello, Roy.
Hello.
So, Roy is starting his process of axing out the blank for this. He's carving a piece of persimmon. He's picked up here the original one. This one is in cherry, and yeah, so here we go. So this is going to be mostly silent, won't be a lot of talking. If I come up with any questions as Roy is carving, I might pose him a question or two. But yeah.
Should have sharpened my axe before attempting this. It's been a long time.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Roy is generally a stickler about the sharpness of his tools, and
I just don't like it to bounce off.
Yeah.
I expect it to catch at a certain angle that I'm used to. If it doesn't, it's annoying. It means you have to take a bigger chip when you're trying to take just like finishing axe cuts.
Yeah, so one of the beautiful things about this spoon, when you look at it, you'll see that a lot of the axe, it's tough to see here, you'll see it better in photos, but you'll see that the axe surface coming down the handle, that's off the axe. So there were no knife cuts on that handle, so it's the finished surface. So that's what Roy's setting up here, is to try and get the finished surface for the top of that handle. Right. And keep that, keep the beauty of those axe marks.
I haven't quite figured out what I did to make the levels just right. What shape I axed into it. That's pretty good for an axe blank. Nice and straight there. I wanted the handle to be perfectly straight, and it is good enough.
Very nice.
And it doesn't look like I'm going to have to doctor the axe strokes later on, which I don't like doing.
Okay.
It feels like the best texture happens when you're doing real work and you're taking a big chip and you're taking equally weighted strokes and that advance in a repeatable pattern.
Great.
I'd like the spoon to compare it, the levels. This is pretty good. You can see there's a lot more crank in my blank, but I think we probably want a little bit more.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
That looks okay. I mean, it looks different.
That's okay. We're gonna get close. Look, we're not machines, even though we might joke at times about Roy being like a machine. Amongst those of us who know Roy, with both his sharpening and with his carving, he is very precise. and really clean, really clean cuts. There's tools. There's sharp, and then as we joke, there's Roy sharp.
Since I've made that spoon, I've increased the crank of my blanks a lot. So
Okay.
that's why it's just happening naturally.
Yeah, you'll see this one is not super cranked. It's a relatively low crank on this one. So
I don't know whether it'll look the same or have the same appeal if it has a lot more crank or not.
well, we'll find out.
Stay tuned. Okay. I like to clean up my blanks with the double-edged knife. It's handy. And this is Susan's.
So this
shave
is
thingy.
kind of a shave mule that Steve Antonucci sort of designed and threw together that you can use. It's easier than carrying around like a spoon mule or a shave horse. Portable, easy to throw in a car and haul with you to an event like where we are here at Spoon Camp, New Jersey. But you could also use like a vise. You could throw it into a vise. You could throw it into, a spoon mule if you've got a spoon mule. Or you could reach out. Steve Antonucci has some videos up on YouTube about putting these together. As he says, he'll take like one 8-foot 2x4 and, half an hour or maybe an hour. He's done a bunch of them at this point, so you could probably do it pretty quickly. So anyway, we're trying to video demo, so if you don't mind waiting.
I didn't realize what was going on.
No worries. So in case you don't know, Roy also makes tools. In fact, that's probably been what he's done mostly for the last year, I think you said, right, Roy? And he does phenomenal, beautiful hook knives and Sloyd knives. So yeah, follow his Instagram. And if you can get to an event where Roy is, he often has many of his tools for sale, and phenomenal tools. I don't know if you can see, but he's putting in that, you'll see that there's sort of a steep drop from the top of the handle down into the bowl, and he's roughing in that shape. And in this case, he's using a double edge, so it's got an edge on both sides of the hook.
I think that'll work.
Brilliant. He also makes these beautiful boxes for his hooks and knives, sheaths that are fantastic.
I could trace that on there now. Maybe if I angle the pencil,
Yeah, I've tried
the
that
tracing
too.
won't be quite so big in comparison to the original. Or I'll just cut inside the lines.
Yeah.
The handle is incredibly narrow up here, so I'll have to be aware of that I don't really want to be cutting inside the lines
Yep.
in the thinnest portion of the handle. However, the bowl is going to be pretty gigantic, I think, from this tracing job.
And what I found when I've tried to do this with this is what it tends to do is elongate the bowl.
Yeah,
you
I'm not
get
sure.
more off of the back of the shoulder, I think, than you
I'm
do.
not sure exactly what's happening with that, but that's exactly my experience.
Yep.
As well, everything gets longer because you're like penciling because of the crank. I think you're penciling like this, and then it's drawing out like that.
Yeah,
You're penciling
exactly.
Like this.
And it happens a lot up here at the shoulder because you got the bulk of the pencil hitting it.
Right.
But the good news is that Roy has agreed for us to do a template off of this, so I've got hopefully pretty strong, solid overhead shots of the bowl, and our friend Sunny Beach will be doing like not CAD, but some sort of a drawing tool, SketchUp or something like that, where he makes the template. So it'll be closer to the accurate shape of the bowl and the handle. Oh, thanks. So although it would be nice to have done this live on our Rise Up and Carve channel, we don't have a strong enough Wi-Fi signal, and my cell signal out here isn't strong enough for us to be on Rise Up and Carve live doing this, where folks could ask questions. So we've had to do this. I'm just videoing it, and then our friend Kate or Kevin will edit the video to put everything together in case we've got to have any stops at any point. But down the road, if folks have questions, maybe I can, if Roy wouldn't mind, I might email him some questions if people have any. But hopefully we'll cover it well enough in this that you shouldn't have a whole lot of questions. If you're hearing all this noise in the background, by the way, it's because we are at an event, spoon carving event, Spoon Camp, New Jersey. I'll just pan over real quick and give you guys a quick show. You can see that we're out here at the Nature Center at Camp Vacamas, V-A-C-A-M-A-S, I believe it is, in New Jersey. And so we've been here for 3 days. Great fun, a lot of fun.
Black. I don't even know what that is. You'd think it's a knot, but I think it's just a response by the wood to something.
Type of spalting or something, or
I don't know, some woods have streaks in them, like cherry has resin spots. This has just black spots of mysteriness. Being an ebony wood, apparently, it's jet black in some places.
I did not know that.
Normally normally I draw knife stuff, but I don't have a good line to go to or a draw knife or a shave horse that I like at this event. So that's about as far as I go with the axe.
Okay.
Right now. Okay, now the boring part of getting closer to the line with a less dangerous tool. You can at least see how I hold a knife, and you know, I use a multi-purpose knife, which is good at, well, it's not very good at all of the things it does, but it's good at powerful strokes, I think. So I use it for everything. Like, it doesn't turn very well here because it's just so wide.
The wide
but,
width of the blade.
You know, I don't really care. I don't feel like switching to another narrower knife. I just like the belly on this, and I stick with it. Because the other half of the time I'm using it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really explain, other than that, why I like this knife so much, but it's the one that I keep making over and over again. Although not all of them are this giant. This is 3/4 of an inch blade width there. I feel it's just more comfortable in this position because you can use that. It's prominent and it sticks out away from the handle in your hand. So it's like a different tool almost compared to a straight blade,
a normal Floyd
knife.
Yeah.
I may be doing some slicing as well, although I kind of feel like it's limiting to be doing too much slicing. Like, I don't like going like that and using the tip at an extreme 45-degree angle to slice, but I think I just like the way that this blade
Rides across the...
I don't know. It's pitched way forward in the handle as well. This was a reject of my handling, which I just then decided to use myself. Normally, it's back a little farther, but this belly has so much sweep to it already that I felt it was okay, or better, to be pitched forward. It's a bit extreme. All right, time to get this done. Go into this knowing that the line is not where the bowl is. It's the starting point.
Yep.
And I've determined that it has pretty sharp corners back here. So these come in pretty sharply. It's not like a teardrop shaped bowl. It's closer to round or round square. And the widest place of the bowl is going to be around here, which means a lot of this is going to have to come off.
I will apologize in advance for my camera work here. Hopefully it's sufficient. I'm no Zed Outdoors.
No tripod.
No tripod, so this is all handheld. So I'm just doing this on my iPhone, so hopefully this will get the idea across of the process and some of the techniques that Roy's using.
Maybe I can not dawdle too much. I mean, spend too much time on one part and just try to flow into removing material in many different places at once to not get stuck here.
Yep.
But I do, before I remove my pencil lines, I do want to make sure my handle is where I want it to be. It's quite a narrow handle. I'm getting closer to that line. I'm so terrified of the line, of going over it in most cases, because my strategy is to draw a consistent line and stick to it. But we're not doing that in this case. It's a little more relaxed. All right, way too wide here. All right, the back facet is going to be, coming from the bowl, it's going to be one facet at 90 degrees to the top surface of the bowl, or at least not at an angle to it.
Yep, parallel.
One of those, and then it'll become sort of triangular in cross section here. So I'm cutting in at a shallow angle, intending this to be a large facet that goes from the bottom almost nearly to the top. And that's going to continue almost the full length of the handle on the underside, gradually widening, but it's going to be very thin back here. It's better. Okay.
So that's where we're
Still very thick. I'm going to rough hollow the bowl now.
So while he's looking for his tool, I can show you just on the video this, if I can find a good background to show it against, maybe against Roy himself. You can see it comes down to a sharp triangular bottom on the handle. And so that's what he's referring to. And then it splits out into another set of facets up as it moves out towards the end of the handle.
Can we look at this part of the bowl? Okay. What I'm seeing here is there's almost no edge here. This surface curls all the way up, and the thickness is totally on the top side facet.
Okay.
Right there. And that's pretty narrow, which means I don't want to, well, I was worried that I was actually thinking that I was seeing this part here and seeing how that is wide, thinking that this also has to be wide, but I see now that this sort of just branches out there, and the width of those facets is contained to the handle, and then it gets narrow again, pretty darn narrow. So disregard. I'll disregard that.
I think what's happening is that you're digging into the ground and it's blocking it from putting the
I
pressure
also
on.
don't have this belt on, which is what I need.
Yep.
There we go. Now it's much more contained.
And also see that Roy does a lot of this work, not handheld, but he's using it in a vise, and he's two hands on the tool. Lets him get a lot more force, get a good, strong, clean cut across the bowl.
rough hollow. I'll do the chamfers. Fairly steep. It's like a 45-degree angle.
Okay. So I think you're checking the sweep of the sides of the bowl. Make sure
the bowl, the top of the bowl is level.
Yep. Relative to the top of the handle.
Right. This might be a pretty fast one. Going fast. I feel like we're almost done.
Right?
I don't want it too thin right here. That's kind of annoying when this is super tall and then it gets really thin here.
Okay.
That's kind of annoying, but that's what we're seeing now. But this right here needs to come down a lot still. The bowl is going to be very shallow. It's just one of my pet peeves where there's not a smooth connection between the handle and the bowl. I don't like it when there's a big shelf that goes down. But we're kind of stuck with that if we're dedicated to having axe marks right there.
Yeah, gotcha.
We don't want to carve this down too far.
Right.
Or that thing occurs where you have this big shelf and then it's really skinny here unless you make the bowl really deep. And that spoon, I don't believe, well, we're on the right track.
Yep.
I think that's about the limit that I would be happy with. It's just one of the characteristics of the spoon design.
Yep.
That it's there, and it's fine. I just don't like it in all my spoons.
Gotcha. I actually like it. I like the look of it. I think it's a real, I don't know, I think it's kind of dramatic, I guess.
Yeah, it is dramatic.
And I gotta tell you, this spoon has a wonderful mouthfeel. I just really love the bowl. I love the handle. It's great in the hand. You get a little bit of that sort of twizzle, ability with it, and yet it sits nicely because of the triangular shape on the back of the handle. It sits nicely. Like I tend to rest mine in between the two fingers with the thumb, gripping at the top. And I as you can probably tell from the patina on this, I use it a lot. Which is why I asked Roy if we could use it as a template.
That's probably good enough as far as the top surface goes. Not completely done with the hollowing yet, but the handle is the top and the facets there on track. Everything needs to be thinner still from the sides and the bottom. So the perimeter of the bowl needs to be cleaned up and shaped fully, and then just thin from the sides and the back. So I'm now deciding the final bowl shape. Can I see that other one side by side? So that's I don't know how to describe that angle. In relation to what? This is like a shallow angle, so it comes up and it doesn't lay over very far before it goes back up again. This one is more like the top of a circle. This is more like a teardrop.
Yep.
So I want to, I don't know, try to accomplish that somehow. But I feel like
That's okay. It's probably better to just make the spoon itself
kind of out of material there, unless I go down. Since I'm at that width right there, the top surface is pretty similar. And the only way I can widen that is by carving down.
Right.
But I can't because I have the axe marks there.
Yep.
We could just smooth this off. That'd be fine. Why not? I mean, I'm not a stickler for the axe marks.
Yep.
It's nice if you can get them there, but I tend to leave the end of my handles pretty unfinished. So it makes a bit of sense to skim here and then just
Dive it
clean up
down a little more
where you need to.
Yep.
Why not? Let's use our brains. That looks fine. It looks straighter. Could have done that with an axe.
Yeah.
Why not? Want to?
It's the
not?
well, you don't have to. It's up to you. It's
If
the
axe were
spirit
sharp-
of the
if the axe
design.
were sharper. I mean, it's totally reasonable to do this with the axe. I just don't want to have wussy looking cuts. So I'm gonna have to be concentrating here. I'm probably cutting crooked and at an angle. And don't hit the bowl, man. There we go. That's how you cheat with axe marks. Is to take really light cuts.
Yeah.
And it's probably easier than doing it with a knife in terms of calories expended. So the goal with doing that was to be able to carve down here to make that wider so that I can come in from the outside to make that,
Narrower.
well, yeah, more of a rounded top
A
spoon.
more acute angle coming into the
Right.
top of the handle.
Because that's one of the key features of the spoon, is that it comes in really tight, but then it
Right.
grows. The handle, well,
Yeah,
has,
it comes in
the,
and
the
narrows.
handle has the soft curve, and the bowl has the hard curve,
Yeah.
or hard angle to it almost. Okay, it's looking better. So I'm working this surface here, going right into the triangular cross-section handle there, trying not to go over the center line on the back. So the center line would be right there, and I'm almost to it. And get that started. Come straight in. flat on top, and then here's where the angled twin facets are on the back of the handle. And this is where the triangular cross-section angled facets come out to the end, and they sort of terminate near the end of the handle, like this. And then there's one that's at 90 degrees to the top that finishes off the end of the handle like this. It's quite square on the end, basically a square.
Yep.
And I was putting two facets on the back like that for a lazy finial.
Love it.
That's pretty darn good for the effort.
I was gonna say, we've been going
it's
for about
pretty
36 minutes.
Pretty
and,
close. Pretty close for the amount of planning we put in. I did, which was very little. Just a rough tracing, having to re-axe it.
Do you remember how long ago it was you carved this spoon originally?
No, probably 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to finish the bowl on the inside. Oh, I've got a chip there, I think. I was sliding on the chip. Just a bit of a wobble there, high spot in the rim still. Okay. I'm just going to be doing light clamping here, so I don't have to hold the spoon as hard in my left hand when I'm doing push cuts like this. So this is how I use a giant double-edged hook knife to finish a tiny eating spoon. Which is very carefully because it's easy to cut
Where you're not intending.
both sides.
Yeah.
How deep is the back of the bowl on this spoon? That's way deeper than I'm doing currently. The knife will fit in there if I use the right part. But the deepness of this bowl is more than what we've got now. So I'll see if I can go deeper with this knife. I just said I could. You have to intentionally do it. The other thing is how far up the handle does this in cut of the bowl. It climbs up a little bit. So you have this weird interaction between all these corners and points and things like that. This is also it's remarkably steep. How steep that facet is. Looking at it straight on, you can see ours is really flat.
Yep.
Which means before I finish the bowl, I should probably
narrow the handle more.
And
so you can
narrowing the
steepen-
handle now, since this is a triangle on the back side, narrowing
change
is
your
as simple
facet.
as
Yeah.
deepening the facet and making it steeper.
Whoops.
Is gonna really pop that thing out. I think the way that I originally formed that design was simply what we're doing here is get your spoon basically done and then decide, oh, you're not happy with it, and you thin down this high spot in an unusual way for you maybe, and then you get a new product that you couldn't have planned. I love doing that. Sometimes I take spoons that I've finished carved and I decide that I don't like the style that I did the neck in, and I carve it down here, right there, and just smooth the transition between the bowl and the neck, and it looks much better. And the material is there, it just needs to be removed to change the style of the spoon.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you can go in with a template and with a plan and trying to adhere to it, but that's what we always find with our RUAC template challenges is everybody puts their own twist on it, and you have to react to the material and where you're at as you're carving it, and come out with what pleases you. You know, some people like to try and get as close as possible to the template and, you know, precisely duplicate it, and others, they take the template as more of a suggestion, as a starting point.
It's looking better, side by side. Looks better with the thin handle. The point looks higher, but it wasn't as bad as it was before.
Yep.
I did the secondary axe work. Now I can go deeper with the hook knife. This is good light.
Some people make them like super low. I mean, people call them like. Apparently, with the voice that's where the design came from. Oh, and they're super affordable.
So I'm using a lot of thumb push and pivot cuts with the double-edged tool, but I have learned not to touch the blade. So I am only touching here
Yep.
and here. You can use it exactly like, you'll get the same results as using a single-edged blade. Without having to change knives all the time. Or compromise on the symmetry of your cuts. Because now you can do either side with either hand exactly the same. Look at that guy.
Being visited by a little pup. Hello, pup.
Wow. Persimmon is nice.
Very pale wood. I wonder how, as it dries.
It's very green and wet and fresh, yet it takes real easily to being finished. Wow. Why not deeper? Just a little bit. I used to struggle with this so much. It was like I was creating problems with every stroke. But eventually you learn. And then you're solving problems with every stroke. It's amazing. Have you ever had a bowl that you got almost perfect and you're just terrified to touch it again with
Right.
a knife because you know you're going to screw it up?
Right.
That phase,
Yeah, when you get to
is,
that point.
you can overcome that phase. You can always go thinner. Oh, that's great.
Wow. Beautiful. I gotta tell you, this is like glassy smooth. Glassy smooth.
Dead green wood.
Absolutely gorgeous.
All right, now I got to do the back of the spoon bowl. And I think there should be some thickness here towards the front, but this is going to curl up and almost disappear. The edge facet on the outside is going to disappear at the back. So, and this cut is going to go almost all the way into the center.
Okay.
on the rack check?
Not,
He's filming.
That was what?
Filming a 30-minute eating spoon.
well, we're now up to 52. But
52. I would have never known how long it took me to carve a spoon if you hadn't started this. The handle is crooked. Yeah. Oh well.
that's all right.
So we get in the rush.
Yeah.
Can try to straighten it. Kind of like the idea of leaving your handle at the end real wide so you can angle it at the last moment,
Yeah.
left or right.
Yeah, you have a little bit of wiggle room.
I like how the edge facets are wide here and very narrow here. So it is very square on the back if you exclude, it's like a
Yep.
pentagram, but pentagon,
Yep.
if you exclude the bottom. But here it's very triangular. Which means I should have been more gentle with these facets back here when I started them. So you have that interesting contrast. And it is super duper thin right there. We didn't talk about where the thinnest part of the handle is. It's right about here, almost an inch up from the bowl, which means this can get a lot thinner,
Yep.
which will really enhance the peel. Now I have to figure out which side do we want to, or if any, thin it from or bias the thinning. It's got a hump in it like this, so I'm going to thin from this side more. Yeah. You have to be really careful about where your handle ends up because the angle of this facet is so far over that it has as much, the angle of the top facet is so much to do with the position of the center line of the handle that if you take this down, suddenly your handle has changed position a lot because it is so steep. 45 degrees at least. I mean, if you're doing it right. It seemed to be the key, one of the key elements of the spoon was the uncharacteristically steep chamfer. It's looking better.
Trying to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. The neighborhood was having a big yard sale this weekend. So it's like I set the husband up with all that. And I was like, I'll leave you here.
That looks fantastic.
And should be narrower. And this should be, it's a very minor issue, but you can see we've got a real big end
Yep.
on this, so it needs to get a lot smaller at the end.
Logistics are crazy.
Whoops.
Dope.
Okay. I mean, that's good enough.
Yep, it's pretty darn close.
I would say that's done.
Yeah.
Done enough to be usable for 50 years.
Beautiful. So there you have it, folks. In 1 hour's time, Roy has gone from blank, or actually a billet, to this finished spoon. So yeah, hopefully everybody gets something out of this. And thank you so much, Roy. Really appreciate you taking the time. All right, signing off, everyone. Be sure you go give Roy a follow on Instagram, and we'll catch you out there. Cheers.